to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and next to me is the man who makes you money. Would be Chris King. Chris, wild game last night in the NFL, Thursday Night Football. We said it was going to be close. We said it would be an interesting game, and you know what? It turned out to be that way.
Yeah, it did. I mean, granted, we wanted to see it stay under the number, but you can't have everything. Because if you could, where would you put it, as Stephen Wright says?
Right.
But I mean, both teams left points out on the board on the field last night. I mean, like you said, the Chargers turned it over 3 times on downs in that game, twice inside the 10-yard line. Plus, they had that fumble where they ended up getting the ball back right afterwards. But still, that's another drive that you potentially could have gotten points out of that you got nothing from.
Right. And we did learn at least last night that now Kansas City looks like they're on a roll and getting ready for the playoffs. And there was a lot of fun play. I mean, the first half was a little sloppy. The third quarter was a bit of a slog, but they really amped it up in the fourth quarter, and things went their way at that point. So but
one thing we did notice, though, is that the Chiefs obviously need to have Chris Jones in the middle of that defensive line because the Chargers ran all over them. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs for a while looked the way that they did early in the season, where teams moved the ball at will.
Yeah, and the other thing was that again, both sides, the kid for the Chargers had another good game. I mean, he seems to be establishing himself as a star. And I'll tell you this much. I wouldn't want to play the Chargers in the playoffs. I just think the Chargers have proven that they've got enough. I've seen the other, certainly the teams in the East. The Patriots are good, but, and the Bills are good. But Justin Herbert looked very good last night. And, he looked like he knew what he was doing, and the team played very well. So
now, what would be entertaining, and it won't happen because of the fact that both those teams, if they get in, likely are wild cards. I'd like to see a matchup between the Chargers and Buffalo, especially if it was in Orchard Park, to see what Herbert can do in conditions as opposed to playing in the confines of SoFi Stadium, because obviously they're going to have to go on the road somewhere, and it's probably going to be cold.
Yeah. It definitely is going to be cold. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. It's funny. He throws a phenomenal ball. I mean, the thing is like it's like 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean, that thing is just as the old joke used to be when Bob Prince, the old voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates, used to say that he could throw it so hard he could throw a baseball through a car wash and not get it wet. Well, it looked like he could throw a football through a car wash and not get it wet. But it was that kind of stuff last night. It was a fun thing. And then, of course, our buddies at IUPUI. I'll let you tell that story. You watched it, so you can report on it.
Like I said in the pre-show, and John, I imagine you're out there somewhere, cashing in your second mortgage after that game stayed under the total. Though they tried to make it interesting. Why Chicago State was fouling in the final minute when they're up by 8 points did serve no purpose other than to try to push the total up near the number. As it finished at 61-55 in favor of the Cougars. So if you took them plus the points and the under, you would have hit a double win right out of that. But I mean, it obviously shows that Chicago State's not used to having a lead late in the game, because otherwise you wouldn't be fouling somebody, and they did it repeatedly. I could see doing it once and then realizing, holy crap, we're ahead at the end of the game. But you don't do it multiple times. It's like they were trying to push the point total up, and if IUPUI had hit that 3 at the end of the game would have been a push. So we were fortunate that was off the mark. But I mean, it was a rock fight. Chicago State, they dominated the glass, but they turned it over 23 times to keep IUPUI hanging around. What was interesting is that game was 54-46 with under a minute to go, so it was well under the cushion. And then we watched those teams combine to score 15 points in 54 seconds when they scored 100 points combined in the first 39-45 of the game.
Oh, man. That's why they call it the charity stripe, my friend. That's why they call it the charity stripe.
Yeah,
Well,
we can
we're
follow when
here.
you're at home.
Yeah, it's foul. It's a foul place to be. Well, here we are. It's Friday. And if it's Friday, it must mean college basketball. If it's college basketball on a Friday, it must be everybody in the world is playing in Charlotte.
Yeah, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame shootout, which we just found out that's what it was called because, God forbid, they can't come up with some original name for something. But it's Richmond. They're favored by 1.5 as they take on NC State, the Atlantic 10, facing the ACC. Richmond is 6-4 this season. NC State 7-3. The Wolfpack have dropped 2 out of 3. They lost 82-72 at home in overtime to Purdue on Sunday. Before that, they lost 73-68 to Louisville, also at home. Meanwhile, Richmond's won 3 in a row coming into this one. They're 32nd in effective field goal percentage at 54.9%. They don't turn the ball over that much, 13th in the nation in that category. They're 30th in three-point shooting at better than 38%. Meanwhile, NC State, they're not effective on the offensive end. They're 247th in effective field goal percentage. They're 267th from behind the arc, and they're 271st in scoring defense. The Wolfpack clearly misses Manny Bates, who was hurt in the opening game of the season. He's done for the year with a shoulder injury. Richmond, say what you want about them being a mid-major team, but Chris Mooney's got a veteran team. He's got a whole bunch of guys that came back for their 5th or 6th or 85th year of eligibility with the way that the NCAA handed out the extra year. So you've got Grant Golden, you've got Jacob Gilliard in there, you've got Nathan Kao. Those are all guys that have been there for a while in the system. Gilliard just became the NCAA's all-time steal leader earlier this month. So, I mean, we're not talking about a young team that's going to get flustered playing a team from the ACC. Richmond 11-4 in their last 15 after an ATS loss. NC State 3-8-1 in their last 12 after a straight-up loss. 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 overall. You have to like Richmond here. And I guess some people would consider it a minor upset just because of the fact that, they're an Atlantic 10 team beating an ACC team. But like we talked about earlier this week, the ACC is not the kind of conference that it's been in recent years.
Right. The other thing, and you brought up a very important point, especially for these mid-majors. Now, Richmond, the past couple of decades, has been a pretty consistent tournament team. And either if they don't make it to the NCAA, they usually end up at the NIT. So the Spiders have been around. The other thing is that you do have players who play 4 years together, and as you said, 1 or 2 of the guys may play their 5th year on the team. So they're more veteran. They're a little bit more poised, and under normal circumstances, you'd say, well, wait a minute, Richmond against a big, strong ACC team, they don't have a chance. But as we said, Duke right now is the only team from the ACC in the AP top 25. And I can't remember the last time that only one team from the Atlantic Coast Conference was in the top 25. It's like they're taking on the identity of the football programs in there.
North Carolina, if they can get by Kentucky tomorrow, now they're playing. Now that UCLA put their program on pause, and Ohio State dropped out of the CBS Sports Classic or whatever it was.
Right.
So those two are going to play each other now tomorrow. If they can get by them, I think you'll see them back in the top 25. They might get in the top 25 even if they lose because they've won 4 or 5 in a row. But the rest of the conference, like we said, Florida State, Leonard Hamilton's got to figure some things out there. And then you've got your typical dumpster fires like Pitt and
Boston College.
Nobody's overly impressed with Virginia Tech. Tony Bennett has to figure out where his team can get some offense because that pack line defense only works so well for so long before somebody figures it out. And then Syracuse is, they're up one day and down the next. We've talked about it before. They give 100 points to Colgate. And, they have to turn things around, or there's going to be a long season for everybody in that conference. And speaking of the ACC, we'll talk about one of the teams that's a surprise.
There it is.
Yeah, that's a surprise this year. That's Steve Forbes with the Demon Deacons over there in Winston-Salem. They come in 10-1. They're going to face Charlotte, who I guess is the de facto host of this Basketball Hall of Fame shootout since it's at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. The Demon Deacons 10-1. The 49ers 5-4. Wake has won 4 in a row. Their only loss this season came to LSU, who is undefeated on the year. Meanwhile, Charlotte has lost 4 of their last 6. They are coming in off a 1-point win over Valparaiso. Charlotte 318th in effective field goal percentage defense as opponents shoot 54.4% against them. They're 283rd in 3-point defense and 313th in 2-point defense. So if you have guys that are actually standing on the floor during a game, you have a pretty good shot at knocking down some hoops against the 49ers defense. And it just so happens that Wake Forest can shoot the ball. They're 24th in effective field goal percentage. They're 13th shooting inside the arc at 57.8%. They're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 as a favorite, and 7-3-1 in their last 11 neutral site games. Meanwhile, Charlotte 1-4 in their last 5 neutral site games as an underdog, 1-4 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record, and 0-4 in their last 4 neutral site games overall. Period.
So the Deacons should spoil the day for the home-standing Charlotte 49ers then.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be impressed with what Forbes has done taking over that team after Danny Manning got let go, because, I mean, he didn't inherit a ton of talent, so he's had to go out and get some guys to plug in. And they've responded well to him. I mean, he had success at East Tennessee State. I'm not going to take anything away from Ron Sanchez. He walked into a dumpster fire when he took over Charlotte after the issues a few years ago, where after they ousted Mark Price and then everybody decided to leave. But Wake Forest, you know, they're too much for a Charlotte team right now that is struggling. As for Nathan, I would take Wake Forest in the first half in this game, because Charlotte doesn't score a ton of points when you get right down to it. And they don't play defense. So that's usually a bad combination when you're facing anybody, especially when you're facing a team from a power conference when you're coming out of a mid-major like Conference USA.
All right, let's move on. We got another one in that same tournament.
No. We get to go to the Big East.
I'm sorry. It's Villanova and Creighton. So the Blue Jays.
Good old Good. Oh, see, John, what do you mean you were settling up with the bank? You should have won that game, which means you should be sending me a cut of what you won, because you would have just cashed out a whole bunch of money. What's wrong with you, John? Villanova, and Creighton, I look for it to fall under the total here. I mean, Villanova 7-3 on the year. Creighton is 8-3. It's the big East opener for both teams. Both teams coming in off losses. Villanova fell 57-36 to Baylor over the weekend, while Creighton stung us the other day as they fell 58-57 at home to an Arizona State team that's not very good. The Wildcats are 55th in the nation in scoring defense at 61.5 points per game. Creighton is 115th. They give up 65.4 points per game. Villanova, they score 74 points a game, but they're 258th in field goal percentage, so they get a lot of second chance points. But if you look, the under is 5-0 in Villanova's last 5 overall. In their last 5 as a favorite, and in their last 5 as a road favorite. Meanwhile, Creighton has seen the under hit in 5 of their last 6, in 4 of their last 5 at home against teams with a winning road record. And it stayed under the total in 4 of the last 5 meetings between these teams. I don't expect a ton of points here. I expect it could be a game where both teams are in the 60s, or one team hits 70 and the other team's in the 50s. But I look for it to fall short of the number. If you want to play the line, I believe last I saw, and it could have changed since then, Villanova was favored by 6.5. The Wildcats have the ability to cover that line. I would endorse it to a point. It's not one of my favorite plays of the day. I do have it in the shot in the dark section. But yeah, Creighton did not look good against Arizona State. It was very disturbing. I expected more from them in that game, especially with the way the Sun Devils have been a sieve defensively. Now they have to play a team that's good on the defensive end. So don't look for a ton of points here.
There you go. So next up, we go to ice. Or do we have one more basketball? No, we got
we go to the ice
coming up. We're heading to the ice, and this time we're headed to Pittsburgh.
Yep, the Steel City. And it's the Penguins hosting the Sabres. The Sabres playing the second game of a back-to-back. They beat Minnesota 3-2 in a shootout yesterday. And what was a game that was very disturbing because Minnesota only scored 2 at home facing Buffalo. That's all I need to say about that. That was Buffalo's fifth win in their last 22 games. They're 5-13-4 in that stretch. Now remember, they were 5-2, 7 games into the season. It took them 22 more games to win 5 more. The Penguins have won their last 5. They've outscored the opposition 20-6 in that stretch. Buffalo's just 19-61 in their last 80 as a road underdog. They're 12-39 in their last 51 against teams with a winning record, and 1-4 in their last 5 coming off a win. Buffalo's supposed to turn to Malcolm Subban in goal tonight. In his only start with the Sabres, he was torched for 6 goals and a 6-2 loss to Carolina back in early December. Pittsburgh, like we said, they've won their last 5. They've won their last 4 after allowing 2 goals or less. They're 4-0 in their last 4 after a victory, 5-1 in their last 6 against the East, and they are 39-14 in the last 53 meetings with the Sabres. Playing at home, look for the Penguins to pull out the win here over a tired Sabres team.
It's not a long trip either. That's kind of like between Buffalo and Pittsburgh is not a. They don't have to make a cross-country trek.
It's about 2 or 3 hours. But you have to remember Buffalo played in Minneapolis last night.
Right. So, and Pittsburgh didn't play. So
right.
That definitely gives them an opportunity to have a nice evening at the Ice House. So we're going to leave the Steel City and we're going to head to the next destination on our Friday travel log,
which is the Windy City.
Going to the Windy City.
Yep, the Blackhawks favored over the Predators tonight. Nashville, they're another team playing a second game of back-to-back. They beat Colorado 5-2 yesterday in a battle of teams that were that have been gutted by COVID. Colorado only had 16 skaters last night and then lost Cale Makar early in that game, which probably helped Nashville, who was missing 7 players and their entire coaching staff. It got so bad for Nashville, they had to call up their coaching staff from their AHL affiliate in Milwaukee, along with assistant general manager Scott Nickel, and have them behind the bench for that contest yesterday. Meanwhile, we got the Blackhawks. They were off yesterday. They come in off a 5-4 overtime win at home over the Capitals Wednesday in another game that burned us. They swept the season series from Washington. All of a sudden, the Blackhawks are playing decent hockey. They're 10-6 under Derek King. Remember, they started the year 1-9-2 before firing Jeremy Colleton in early November. Nashville just 1-5 in their last 6 when their opponent scores at least 5 goals in their last game. Chicago 5-2 in their last 7 at home. The home team has won 4 of the last 5 meetings in this series. With Nashville tired and missing players and having no coaching staff, and the Blackhawks rested and at home, coming off a win, I like Chicago to take advantage of this situation here and keep the good times rolling for Coach Derek King. Maybe they'll eventually take that interim tag off him because he's done a solid job with a team that's, not all that great.
Yeah, it seems like at least for the time being, they'll give him an opportunity to win that job. Now, it wouldn't be an NHL week, or for that matter, a 24-hour period or 48-hour period, if we didn't go to our favorite doormat team. Now, every league has. In baseball, it's the Baltimore Orioles, but in hockey, it's out in the desert. And they might as well be playing in the desert because they sure as heck can't play on the ice. For those of you who don't know, it's the Arizona Coyotes.
Right, and they're on the road tonight in the Honda Center against the Anaheim Ducks. Arizona just 3-11-1 on the road this season, while Anaheim is 10-4-2 on home ice. The Ducks have won 4 of their last 5 coming in. Meanwhile, Arizona has lost 6 in a row, and they've been outscored 27-10 in that stretch. Not good when you have a negative 17 goal differential in just 6 games. The Ducks won the first meeting this season between the teams. They won 3-1 at home back in November. Arizona's last in the league in goals per game. Still, it probably won't change for a while. 1.79 goals a game. They're even worse on the road. That's right. 1.33 goals per game. They've scored 20 goals in 15 games away from the Gila River Arena this season. Meanwhile, the Ducks average 3.31 goals per game on home ice. Arizona 12-39 in their last 51 against teams with a winning record. 7-24 in their last 31 on one-day arrest. They're 0-5 in their last 5 on Friday. The Ducks 7-0 in their last 7 as a favorite. They've won their last 5 as a home favorite, and they're 6-0 against teams with a winning percentage below .400. I haven't gotten any confirmation that Whataburger is going to have a giveaway if the Coyotes can score more than 3 goals on the road, but they probably don't have to worry about it here. Look for the Coyotes to putter along and score maybe 2 if they're lucky, but the Ducks get the win as the Cactus, as Euler pointed out, go down in flames again. You feel bad for them, but it's their own damn fault they moved from Winnipeg in the first place.
And this is true. This is true. You know,
and speaking of Winnipeg, it's sad to see that Paul Maurice resigned today for the Jets after in his 9th year with the franchise. Maurice, he's had some success there. I mean, they've only had one sustained playoff run, but it's tough playing in that Central Division. I hope he missed. He was a good coach. He was a solid guy. He was good in Carolina. He was good in Toronto. He was good in Winnipeg. It'll be interesting to see if he catches on somewhere else down the line.
There has been some conversation in the league about the possibility of either moving a franchise or getting a franchise into Quebec province. And we'll see how that plays out.
I can only wonder what Montreal will want for that.
Yeah. Probably the Notre Dame Cathedral, something along those lines.
I mean, you probably remember the old Battle of Quebec series that they used to have back in the 80s, Jim, with the Nordiques.
Yeah.
Back when you had the Statsneys and Michel Goulet and all those guys.
Right.
And, some of those were body bag series, too.
Oh, yeah. And the fun part was, I mean, they were yelling at each other in French, which made it even better. So it was
better for who?
Well, I mean, better from a television standpoint because you didn't know whether they're cursing or not, which was a good thing. My dear friend Denny Cassavant, if you happen to be watching us in Canada, you know Denny. Denny is the voice of NHL, Major League Baseball, and NFL football, all in French for the Canadian French network up there.
Is that RSN or whatever it is?
Yeah, RSN. And Denny's been, he's like the Al Michaels of French Canadian broadcasting. And he used to talk about the fun times that the Nordiques and the Canadians used to have battling each other. But anyway, we digress. I think, are we ready to go from the NHL or we got one more?
No, we're ready to move on to the association.
All right. We're ready to go to hardwood. And next up, the NBA. Chris, where are we headed on the travel log today?
Well, we're going to go out to Sacramento where the Memphis Grizzlies are on the road to face the Kings. When you get right down to it, Memphis, they're a 5.5-point favorite. And they should cover that one rather easily if you look. Memphis has won 4 in a row and 9 of their last 10. They beat a fading Portland team 113-103 on Wednesday, while Sacramento got back in the win column by beating Washington 119-105 Wednesday night. Look at the next mark on the list there. If you look, the Kings are going to be out without De'Aaron Fox, Louis King, Alex Len, Marvin Bagley, and Terrence Davis. They're all in the health and safety protocols. It's a big blow losing Fox. He's their leading scorer. Richaun Holmes, he's missed the last 4 games with an eye injury. He could be out again. Tyrese Halliburton is a question mark as well. If they don't play, it's going to put a real strain on the Kings, who only have one other point guard on the roster besides Fox and Halliburton and Davis, who are all missing. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies are 7th in scoring offense at 111.1, and you have to remember they're doing this without John Morant, who's been out with a knee injury for a couple of weeks now. Meanwhile, the Kings, 29th in scoring defense. That's not a good matchup if you're Sacramento, especially if you don't have any players. Memphis 4-0 in their last 4 after giving up 100 points. They're 5-0 in their last 5 on the road. They're 6-1 in their last 7 when their opponent scores at least 100 points. Meanwhile, Sacramento 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. They're 1-4 on one day of rest. They're 0-4 playing teams with a winning record. I feel bad for the Kings for about 3 seconds. I mean, it was their own fault they hired Luke Walton and then fired him. Then Alvin Gentry is in the health and safety protocol. So Doug Christie, former King player, the acting coach at the moment, he might want to suit up because the Kings need a point guard. But they're in trouble tonight.
Yeah, I think the operative term there is acting with the coaching job in Sacramento. It is definitely performance art at this point. Next up, I think we're going to take a look at the Knicks, right?
No. It's the battle of attrition we were talking about in the pregame.
Oh yeah, the body bag game. This one is the Heat, the Battle of Florida.
Yeah, it's the Southeast Division battle of the Sunshine State. The Heat favored by 7 over Orlando. Miami will be without Jimmy Butler. He's still out with that tailbone injury. Markieff Morris and Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero questionable with that quad contusion. However, if you're the Magic, I feel sorry for you because you don't have any players. I mean, let's be honest. Mo Wagner, Terrence Ross, and RJ Hampton were added to the health and safety protocols today. Ignas Brazdeikis, Jalen Suggs, E'Twaun Moore, Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, and Jonathan Isaac have all been out before. Meanwhile, Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, and Mo Bamba are questionable. From what I understand, the Magic are trying to find the peanut vendor to see if they can get him to sign up and on a 10-day contract. As Jim mentioned, the G League team for the Magic only about 25 miles away in Lakeland. They might be calling up a whole bunch of guys for this one.
Orlando's bus is on its way.
Yeah, there you go. Orlando's lost 6 in a row. They're 28th in scoring offense, and they have to face a Miami team that is 3rd in scoring defense and 5th in field goal percentage defense. Miami's 4-1 in their last 5 when their opponent gives up at least 100 points. They're 9-3 in their last 12 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. Meanwhile, Orlando 1-4 after a double-digit loss. I don't know what you can really say about Orlando other than I feel bad for them. They've got basically 8 guys that are active and only 5 guys that are fully active because, like we said, Anthony, Harris, and Bamba are all questionable. So you might as well bring up the whole Lakeland team and put them on the floor because they can't be any worse than what we've seen from Orlando.
Well,
this
Orlando's
is a prime chance for the Heat to build some momentum.
Yeah. I mean, Orlando's not that good when they're healthy.
This is true.
So take those guys off, and like you said, you got what do you got to lose to put the G League team out there? I mean, it's like putting the junior varsity out. Say, you know what? Let's just take the night off, let the G League play the Heat, and see how that works. So, it's one of those nights. But the good thing, folks, it's Amway Center. So if you need products on your way out, not a problem. They got you covered. Or nutrition bars, whatever. Okay. No throwing shade here on the Amway people. I'm sure they're very nice, and we all have seen and met people who are in the Amway business. But anyway, at the Amway Center, it looks like tonight, cleaning night will be the Miami Heat cleaning the Orlando/Lakeland Magic out of the building before.
And who knows, if you're one of the first 12 people in attendance, you might get a chance to suit up and play.
That's true. So like the old ABA. So all right. So we've been to Orlando, and so now perhaps we can move on. And is this the Knicks game?
Nope, this is Beantown. This is the Warriors Celtics.
Oh, what am I doing with the damn Knicks in my head? I got the Knicks stuck in my head.
I don't know. Maybe because they played basketball.
Yeah, that probably is it. I'm stuck in yesterday, a time warp. So this one has the Warriors headed to the Beantown boys and playing in the new Garden, TD.
Yeah, the TD Garden. And Elliot, to answer your question, yeah, I like the Jazz tonight, even though they're giving 11.5 against the Spurs. Utah coming off the first stretch where they've won 4 consecutive games by at least 20 points in franchise history after they beat the Clippers the other night. They've won 8 in a row. They're at home. San Antonio, we've talked about it before. This is not a typical Popovich team. I don't have a ton of faith in them. And the way Utah is clicking right now, they're a deep team. They have a lot of weapons. The additions of Rudy Gay and Hassan Whiteside to that bench has really lengthened their rotation and made them that much more dangerous because now instead of going 6 or 7 guys deep, you can go 9 or 10 without any real drop-off. The Spurs, I don't know, Jim, what do you think of San Antonio going on the road here?
I don't like it. San Antonio. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not. It's a different question. My apology. I think we've seen that San Antonio has not been a good road team. They've been they're not playing Popovich basketball. They're not playing team basketball. And I'd love to say because I love Pop. He's a good guy and he's a great coach. But um, I don't have a lot of faith in them away from the AT&T Center down in on the riverfront there in San Antonio. So if it were me, I would stay away from San Antonio on the road because that doesn't look like a winning proposition to me.
And also, Elliot, I do like the Rangers as a home underdog. Vegas, they have played well of late, but like you said, they're on a back to back. Granted, it was just in New Jersey, but still, it's also their third game in 4 nights. It's going to take a toll on them. And the Rangers play well at home. I mean, you can't underestimate that at all.
Yep.
But back to the one we're talking about here, the Warriors and the Celtics. There were some late additions to the health and safety protocols. We put them down at the bottom. Al Horford and Grant Williams joined Jabari Parker in the protocols for Boston. Jordan Poole is out for the Warriors now as he's in the protocols as well. So that could impact things a little bit here. Meanwhile, the Warriors have won 2 in a row and 4 out of 5. They are third in the league in scoring offense at 111.8 points per game. They lead the league in scoring defense. Boston's 7-4 at home, but the Warriors are 9-3 on the road. Granted, I know Boston got Jaylen Brown back earlier this week, and they beat Milwaukee earlier this week. But beating Milwaukee, especially with Milwaukee as banged up and depleted as they are, is a little different than facing a team that is 23-5 on the year. Golden State's won their last 7 on Friday. They're 4-1 in their last 5 on 2 days of rest. They are 23-8-1 in their last 32 after scoring at least 100 points. Boston just 2-6 in their last 8 when their opponent scores at least 100. 1-5 in their last 6 after an ATS win, and they're 1-6 in their last 7 after scoring 100 or more in their last game. Now I know that the Warriors, they played in Boston or not Boston. They played in New York earlier this week. They played in Philadelphia earlier this week, and but now the whole hoopla about Steph Curry breaking the record, we don't have to hear about it anymore. He doesn't have to worry about it. He can focus on actually playing the game. You have to think that the Warriors can cover the line here. Boston, even with Tatum or with Brown healthy, it's basically Tatum and Brown, and you haven't gotten a whole lot of production for elsewhere. Granted, Horford was contributing, but he won't play tonight, so now you have to deal with that as well. I haven't seen a lot out of Marcus Smart, and that's a problem for the Celtics because they need a third option to score for them if they're going to hang in with some of these good teams coming out of the Western Conference.
True. And, we did see Steph and the boys play, in MSG and like you said, against Philadelphia. I've seen this over the years. A lot of times when teams come over from the West Coast, and this is their last, this is the last game they're going to play. They're going to fly home after this one's over tonight. So a lot of times they play loose and they play fine. So they figure we're gonna let's go home on a win and jump on the bird. And look, that's just average teams that do that. This is Golden State is not an average basketball team. So if past is prologue, then you'd have to say Golden State's gonna close the road journey out with a win and get on the plane and have some dinner and take that 5-hour flight from Boston to San Francisco.
And hopefully, have a peaceful flight as opposed to some of these ones that you run across where you get all kinds of turbulence and what have you.
Right.
But the Warriors, they don't get it rattled by much. And now Klay Thompson and James Wiseman have been recalled from the G League, so they'll be back soon too. That'll just make Golden State that much more dangerous going forward.
Yeah, which is scary into itself. But there you go. So what do we do next, boss?
We've got the bowl game.
College. The bowls have begun. Yes, folks, that's right. Yeah, you can't live them out without them. Here they are, the bowl games.
And yeah, Nathan, Jordan Poole is in the protocol. We touched on that a minute ago. So like I said, it's Al Horford and Jabari Parker and Grant Williams for Boston in that one. But you still got Curry and Wiggins, and you've got guys like Draymond Green that can chip in when they feel like it. So, you have to have more faith in the Warriors than the Celtics, given the fact that other than Tatum and Brown, there hasn't been a lot of reliable offense for Boston this season. It's the Bahamas Bowl. It actually started a little while ago because, of course, they've got to start these games in the middle of the afternoon for no freaking reason other than, they have to fill those early afternoon time slots on right. ESPN or ESPN2 or ESPN 36.
Right.
But it's Toledo from the MAC taking on Middle Tennessee from Conference USA. Middle Tennessee finished the year 6-6. Toledo 7-5. Middle Tennessee is down to their third and fourth string quarterbacks after injuries and transfers took out their first two. Middle Tennessee just 100th in the FBS in total offense. They're 54th in scoring offense. Meanwhile, they face a very dangerous Toledo team that is balanced. The Rockets 35th in total offense at 435.8 yards a game. They're 24th in scoring offense. Meanwhile, they were 31st in total defense and 27th in scoring defense this year. One of the few teams in the nation to be ranked in the top 30 in both scoring offense and scoring defense. I feel bad for Rick Stockstill. He's had some good quarterbacks in recent years, but his son graduated a couple of years ago, and then Asher O'Hara was there last year, and he decided to transfer after having a good season last year. Middle Tennessee just 1-7 in their last 8 in December, 1-6 in their last 7 after a straight-up win, 1-6 after an ATS win, and they're just 1-5 in their last 6 bowl games. The Rockets 5-1 in their last 6 after running for more than 200 yards. They're 4-1 in their last 5 overall, 4-1 in their last 5 non-conference games. The Rockets will run the ball down your throat and make things extremely difficult. And that's something that with Brian Koback and Dequan Finn, who's a good dual-threat quarterback, that's something Middle Tennessee's not used to seeing. I like the Rockets given the points here as they leave Nassau at Thomas Robinson Stadium there in the Bahamas with a victory. Who decided to put a bowl game there?
Well, ESPN did. And also the resort down there. There's a big resort down there that helps sponsor it. It's, the funny thing about Toledo is of those 5 losses that they had a lot of close games. Toledo played a lot of good close games. And so
Toledo's no slouch.
Yeah.
I mean, they play in the MAC. Everybody likes to score points.
Yeah. Right, for sure. But you're right. The running game, that's something that they will out-physical Middle Tennessee. And that's the problem for Middle Tennessee State. There's no doubt about it. They're going to out-physical them.
You talk about their losses. Like you said, they lost by 3 at Notre Dame in September.
Right.
They lost by 2 to Northern Illinois. They lost by 3 in overtime to Central Michigan. They lost by 3 to Eastern Michigan. The only game they lost by more than 3 points was to Colorado State, and they lost that one 22-6.
Well,
So, you've got 4 losses by 3 points or less.
Right.
So they were in games.
A loss.
Right.
Yeah, they were there. But the other thing about bowl games is you think you have a lot of time to practice, right? What you don't have a lot of time is to game plan, and you get there's not going to be a lot of they've got some tape on Toledo, but the best thing about Toledo, by the way, if you've ever been there, Paco's Hungarian hot dogs. Farr made them famous in MASH, and there really is a Paco's Hungarian hot dog stand in Toledo. If you're ever out there, by all means, I highly recommend it. So enough about that bowl, and we go back to Orlando. Now, when we last were in Orlando, just moments ago, we were telling you how bad Miami and Orlando was going to have it tonight. Well, you think that's a problem, ladies and gentlemen? I give you the Cure Bowl.
That's right. It's Coastal Carolina. The Chanticleers taking on Northern Illinois, another team from the MAC. Northern Illinois, they finished the year 9-4. They won the MAC title game over Kent State. Coastal Carolina finished 10-2. They ended up not playing in the Sun Belt title game because App State finished 7-1 in the conference. Coastal Carolina was 6-2. Both teams can run the ball. Northern Illinois is fifth in the nation in rushing offense at 234.5 yards per game. Coastal Carolina right behind them, they're sixth at 230.4 yards a game. The difference in these teams is defense. Coastal Carolina 18th in total defense. They're 19th in scoring defense, giving up 20 points a game. Meanwhile, Northern Illinois is 112th in total defense, giving up 448.2 yards a game. They're 120th against the run. They give up 215.8 yards a game on the ground. They are 107 in scoring defense, giving up 32.8 points a game. Now, take note, when we talk about college basketball, it's 358 teams we're talking about. In the FBS, there's 130. So we're talking about a team that is in the bottom quadrant when it comes to defense in Northern Illinois. When you get right down to it here, sure, Rocky Lombardi, everybody wants to talk about what a great job he's done at Northern Illinois after he transferred from Michigan State. But I got news for you. The guy on the other sideline, Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina, he can run. He can do damage with the pass. He had the highest QB rating in the nation for passer efficiency at over 207. It wasn't even close. C.J. Stroud was next in line at 182. The Chanticleers are a dangerous team. They were sixth in the nation in scoring offense. They averaged 40.4 points a game. We've watched Northern Illinois go 3-14 in their last 17 in December. They're 0-6 in their last 6 bowl games. Coastal Carolina 9-3-1 after giving up less than 100 yards on the ground, and 11-4 in their last 15 non-conference games. Coastal Carolina is not going to be intimidated facing a team like Northern Illinois. The Huskies are a sieve defensively. I know 11 points sounds like a lot, but when you average 40-plus a game, you can cover a line like that. Take Grayson McCall and Coastal Carolina. Like we were talking in the pre-show, Jim, I hope that Jamie Chadwell gets some consideration for a job at some bigger school because he's done a great job there with the chance, and he deserves a shot to carry that on somewhere else.
Well, he's taken one of those non-Power 5 conference teams and has put them consistently in the top 25, and that's not easy to do. And it's something that Coastal has done consistently over the past 3 or 4 years. And there's going to be some at the end of the season. There will be some other jobs that will come up, whether it's a Power 5 or not. We don't know yet, but he's got to be given some consideration because he's not only bringing kids to Coastal Carolina who probably didn't know Coastal Carolina existed, but he's also worked the portal and has brought some kids in through the transfer portal, which again, that's something like an Oklahoma State or a Kansas State or maybe Oregon State. You teams in bigger conferences that are lesser, try to get them from the middle of the pack up to at least competitive, and they work the portal. But he's been able to work the portal to give his team a chance at being, undefeated and consistently ranked.
Yeah, if you look, he's had really great success there, especially when you consider what Coastal was before he came on board. Mm-hmm. And that's something that everybody seems to overlook too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what they were before that, but it'll be fun.
He's 20. He started. He's 29 and 19 in his career in 4 years there, but he went from 3-9 in 2017 to 5-7 to 11-1, and then he was 10-2 this season. Right. When you put that in perspective, like we said, Coastal Carolina, he didn't coach in 2018. He stepped away from the team. Joe Maglia took over there at 5-7. But, he's brought this team from being an FCS school up to being a contender in FBS in 5 years.
Right. And that's not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're going to look, if you got a couple minutes tonight, it might not be tough to check the Cure Bowl out just to take a look at Coastal Carolina and to see, what it's like and how they're playing, because they're worth a look. I mean,
And
that's what
it's
these
better than
bowl
watching
games.
the Magic.
Yeah, it's true. That's what these bowls are for. You get to take a little sampling and take a look at some of these teams, and just because some of these kids are going to be playing on Sunday, and so you're gonna get a chance to see them. So what the heck? We strongly recommend, if you got 5 or 10 minutes, yeah, dip in and check out Coastal Carolina tonight. So, all
And
right.
Nathan, Santa Clara, Florida A&M. The total, I'm guessing you're thinking it looks high because of the fact that Florida A&M is 330th in the nation in scoring offense. Santa Clara, they're 104th. They're averaging about 76 points a game, and they're facing a Florida Florida A&M defense that's 233rd in the country. They go up 70.2. Santa Clara, they're not all that great defensively, which is strange because normally they're better than that. They're 207th currently in scoring defense. It might be a little high, but never underestimate a team called the Rattlers. I mean, Herb Sendek, we've seen him have some issues when it comes to beating lousy teams before. He had that issue at NC State after he left Miami of Ohio. If you look, they're coming off, well, they've lost 5 of their last 7 there. If anything, I think the 18 points might be a little high just because of the fact that they haven't played that well. They're coming off losses to Cal and Boise State, their last 2 games out at 72-60 in both those games. I give Florida A&M as 2-7, but they've actually played some quasi decent teams. They're coming off of beating it by Cincinnati. It might be a little high. It might have come in like 135, 137, but it's not massively high, I don't think.
Just a real quick aside about Florida A&M. Florida A&M, when Jake Gaither was the head football coach there, for decades, it was Jake Gaither and it was Eddie Robinson at Grambling. And there was a tremendous battle between those two historically Black colleges for being the best in that particular area. And Jake Gaither and Eddie Robinson not only coached the football team, they also coached the basketball team. And in the case of Jake Gaither, he occasionally coached the baseball team. So there's a lot going on. By the way, I see that there's a lot of people out there, and I saw one person has so far taken the time to smash the button for the like. Please, I'm begging you. I'll tell you what, if you start hitting that number of likes, we will give you the next 3 picks for free. Okay? The next 3 picks that Chris comes up with.
And if you call now,
no charge. Okay? So,
except Cena
still
owes me a bill.
Right. So here we go. The next 5 minutes, we're going to be totally free for you. Chris is going to give you all these great picks. Not going to charge you a bit.
And we won't send Steen to your house to eat pie.
Right. Or Rochelle there to date your daughter. Either one. So here we go. And it's 2 for the money. And here you go, guys. 2 for the money.
Yep. Like we just talked about, Coastal Carolina -11 over Northern Illinois. The Huskies don't play defense. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they play in the MAC and, they don't play defense there. Like we said, everybody knows the show Orange is the New Black. Well, the MAC is the new Big 12. Defense is optional. Unfortunately, when you play a team that actually plays defense, you're in trouble. And that sums up the Huskies here. Look for the Chanticleers to come up with a win in the Cure Bowl. And like we talked about, Memphis, the line was 5.5 earlier. It may have moved since. But Sacramento, like we said, they're minus De'Aaron Fox. They're minus Marvin Bagley. They're minus Terrence Davis. And you could insert, 3/4 of their rotation. Tyrese Halliburton is questionable. Memphis is won 9 out of 10. You have to think they'll go on the road and take care of business there. Golden State over Boston. It's a 3-point line. I forgot to put that in there. That was my fault. But I like the Warriors even without Poole in the mix because outside of Tatum and Brown, the Celtics don't have anyone. They also don't have Horford or Grant Williams today. Warriors could pound the ball inside if they want to, as that takes a big dent out of Boston's big man depth in the front court. And the Penguins minus 1.5 over the Sabres. The Sabres have not had success in the second game of back-to-backs this season. Like we said, they're supposed to give Malcolm Subban the start. His goals against this year is over 7. That's not a good sign when you're a goaltender. I like the Penguins to bounce back here and run their win streak to 6 as the Sabres get beaten in the Steel City.
There you go. All right, that's 2 for the money. It's now, let's keep hitting that button, folks, because it's free from here. Okay, here we go. 2 for the money and 4 for the show.
And right, there it is. See, 4 for the show. There it is. Okay, like we said, the Ducks over the Coyotes. We said, I don't know how. I know that sounds like we're beating up on the Coyotes, and sure, that might be true. But you know what? When you play as badly, if Don Cherry was here, for those of you who know grapes, he would be pounding on the Coyotes even worse than I do. When you average 1.33 goals a game.
And wearing a very loud suit. Yes.
Exactly. When you average 1.33 goals a game on the road and you're 3-11-1 and you nearly get ejected from your own home arena because you don't pay the taxes, I don't have any faith in you. I like the Ducks. They've played better this season. The last couple of years they had struggled to light the lamp. This year they're an above-average team in that category. Facing an Arizona team that can't keep the puck out of their own net or put it in the net themselves, I like the Ducks there. Elliot, you asked about it earlier. Like I said, I like the Rangers at home as an underdog against Vegas. I know Vegas has been rolling. I know I picked them twice this week. I picked them over Boston on the road. I picked them over New Jersey on the road. But here they're playing the second game of back-to-back. It's the third game in 4 nights. It's obviously going to take a toll on those guys. And then, like we said, in the body bag match in Sunshine State, the Heat minus 7 over Orlando. They tried to get Shaq to come back. He said no. Tracy McGrady said no. Penny Hardaway's too busy coaching Memphis. So first 12 fans in the Amway Center, you can get a jersey and suit up. You might have tape, put your name on a tape so that, and pick some random number, but hey, you could be playing tonight. And the Hornets +3 over Portland. We've talked about it repeatedly in the last week or so about how Portland has hit the skids. They've lost 6 in a row at home. The Hornets are almost back to full strength after having guys out due to the COVID protocols. LaMelo Ball is expected to play tonight as well. How Charlotte is a 3-point underdog in this game, I'll never understand. Look for them to take care of Portland, who still don't have C.J. McCollum. Damian Lillard can't do it by himself.
Okay, it's time to go big or go home. And Joan,
I'm already at home, so I can just leave.
There you go. Joan, G-Money, Elliot, our buddy John, everybody out there, here we go. This is the one where Chris will explain. You don't have to take them all, but you might want to just pick a few of them, put them together, and you might be cashing some cash tonight.
Yeah, we had some good success out of this yesterday with some of the games that we had on the bracket. So looking for it to pan out again here. Like we said, if you're not going to play the total in Villanova Creighton, I like the Wildcats minus 6.5 over the Blue Jays. Creighton was just terrible against Arizona State, 57 points against a team that is a sieve defensively. Now they have to play a Villanova team that's good on the defensive end. Villanova is going to be – Jay Wright's team is going to be angry after the way they played against Baylor. Look for them to pull out the win here in Omaha. Meanwhile, Wake Forest over Charlotte. We talked about this. The Demon Deacons 10-1. Steve Forbes has done a great job with that team. Charlotte's lost 4 out of 6. I don't care if they're playing at the Spectrum Center. Ron Sanchez's team has his hands full here. Look for the Demon Deacons to win the nightcap of the Hall of Fame basketball shootout, sponsored by insert name here. Then I like San Diego State. They're a 3-point underdog against St. Mary's. We've seen St. Mary's struggle at times. They had some good success earlier in the season, but we just saw them get hammered last weekend when they got drubbed by Colorado State. They bounced back with a win over UC Santa Barbara, and then they beat everybody's favorite basketball power. Yes, that's right, Cal State Stanislaus on Tuesday night on a neutral floor. There's a big jump up in competition from Cal State Stanislaus to San Diego State. Obviously, Brian Dutcher will have his team ready to go for this one after dropping games earlier this season to USC and then Michigan. They're coming off a win over Cal State Fullerton. They've had over a week off. And everybody knows that the Aztecs, going back to the Steve Fisher days, are very good on the defensive end of the floor. They'll make life tough for St. Mary's offensively. Could be another type of a rock fight, but hopefully not as bad as Chicago State IUPUI yesterday. Like we said, I like the Jazz minus 11.5 over San Antonio. Utah's won 8 in a row. They're chasing down the Spurs, or not the Spurs, the Suns and the Warriors atop the Western Conference. They've come off 4 straight wins by at least 20 points. It's the first time they've done that in franchise history. The Spurs are not a good road team. And the last thing that Greg Popovich wants to do is try and run with a Jazz team that can pile up the points. Minnesota +1 over the Lakers. I know that Anthony Edwards was added to the health and safety protocols this afternoon, which is a blow for Minnesota. They still have Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. Russell Westbrook is among those in the protocol for the Lakers. That might actually help Los Angeles be a little more efficient because now they only have to worry about 2 guys trying to shoot the ball on every possession. Then I like the Nuggets +3.5 on the road over Atlanta. The Hawks, without Solomon Hill, they will be without DeAndre Hunter. They'll also be without Bogdan Bogdanovic. The Nuggets, they got Austin Rivers back the other day, which was nice. They're going to get a few other guys back. And let's face it, the Nuggets offense runs through Nikola Jokic. There's no doubt about that. He narrowly had missed a triple-double against Washington Monday because he got ejected. Then he had one in the loss Wednesday. We're going to have another big game here. The Hawks, they rely on Trae Young way too much. He put up 28 despite a neck injury the other day. But how much can he carry this team without getting enough help from John Collins and Clint Capella? On the ice, Washington going on the road. They're facing Winnipeg. Winnipeg just 4-7-1 since November 18th, so that's about a month worth of hockey. That's part of why Maurice resigned. Dave Lowry agreed to take over on an interim basis for the Jets. Washington aggravated after they lost to the Blackhawks for the second straight time this season. Look for them to get the road win in Manitoba. Like we talked about, the Blackhawks over the Predators, Nashville, 7 guys in protocols, all their coaching staff. When you have to call up coaches from the minors to fill in, it's not a good look for your franchise. Then I like the Blues over the Stars. I went the other way with this the other day. It didn't pan out. The Blues are at home here. The Stars are not a good road team. Charlie Lindgren is a nice surprise for St. Louis. He's in net only because Jordan Binnington is in the health and safety protocols and Ville Husso is out with a lower body injury. Lindgren, former Montreal Canadiens castoff, he's 4-0-0 with a 129 goals against this season. And if you're going to play in the bowl games, like I said, Toledo over Middle Tennessee, that game's going on now, so it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. But it's always entertaining to see these bowl games.
If you have the opportunity to go in-game betting, you've got a chance.
That's true too.
On that,
I always overlook that because most of the time I just think I look at the games the way they're going right or before tip-off.
Right.
Since you can't bet down here.
Yeah. I'll be honest. There's no way I would do in-game betting. That's a great way to lose more money than you've already lost. So no, I'm not going down that route. But for some people, they can do it, and then they do it well. So to them, I tip my hat. All right, Chris. Big weekend coming up with a lot of games of interest and of import. Anything you're going to be watching this weekend? I'm not asking you to predict, just asking you to watch. Give me the 3 games you think are the most important ones that you want to take a look at on what is very much a make it or break it kind of week for a number of teams in the NFL And certainly we know that the COVID protocol has become very important to the National Football League, especially with some of the top stars having to sit out games.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest games you got to look at right now is going to be tomorrow night at Lucas Oil Stadium when you've got the Patriots traveling to face the Colts. That's obviously going to be a big game. New England 9-4, Indianapolis 7-6. It's going to be a big matchup because if the Colts can win, they'll jump into a playoff spot, and it'll also give Buffalo some life in the AFC East race heading into their matchup between New England and Buffalo in Foxborough next week. You've also got another big game is going to be Green Bay and Baltimore. Will Lamar Jackson play? Nobody knows yet because he's still dealing with that ankle injury that knocked him out last week. The Ravens can ill afford a loss here because if they drop to 8-6, we've got the Bengals right behind them at 7-6 going into this week as they face Denver. That's going to be a big matchup too because you've got two 7-6 teams in the AFC. And then I guess if you want to get right down to it, everybody's going to wonder what's going to happen in Washington and Philadelphia. Both those teams fighting for a playoff spot. They're both 6-7. Washington obviously gutted by the health and safety protocols. They're down to apparently third-string quarterback Garrett Gilbert, who they signed off the street today, could be starting Sunday. Meanwhile, will be Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew for the Eagles under center this week after Minshew had a good game last week. Granted, it came against a mediocre team, but he actually moved the ball down the field through the air, and that's something that we've seen Philadelphia have problems with Jalen Hurts.
Well, you got in Washington, you definitely have issues because the defense, they're minus a couple of their very key linemen, which when you got Jalen Hurts, it's hard. Jalen Hurts can run, and
but Jalen Hurts to me is a poor man's Lamar Jackson, where he'll scramble, he'll look at one guy. If it was not there, he's going to take off.
You did bring up Lamar. I mean, if he's got that high ankle sprain, which is what he had that put him out, that's a problem. It's definitely going to be a problem for them. And,
not to mention all the guys that are hurt on defense. Do they have anybody that can cover anybody?
Well, yeah, it's the Packers. I mean, it's not like you're playing, this is not an easy game for them to play. I mean, they don't match up. They would have, even with Lamar, it would have been Lamar at 100%. It would be a difficult challenge. With Lamar perhaps playing at 60% or even 75%, that just is an issue. The other problem that Baltimore has had historically during his reign as as quarterback has been winning the important big games. They just haven't got there. And so I would personally, I'd steer clear of the game because I don't think that, there's way too many red herrings out there that could fly up and bite you over that. But you're right. It really is not, it's not a good game for Baltimore because there's so many opportunities for people to fly by them in the playoff hunt. And this would be an opportunity if Cincinnati can get hot and win, they move into first place. And as you say, it leaves the door open for Buffalo to get back. And so there's a lot of teams that can go screaming past them if they were to lose Sunday afternoon. Which frankly, I think they will.
Final 4 weeks of the season, when you look at how crowded these playoff fields are, and you see that you've got, I mean, if like I said, the standings are so clumped together where you've got all these teams that are 7-6 or 6-7. I mean, if you look, there's 10 teams that are 7-6 or better.
Right.
In the AFC, and then you have Pittsburgh is 6-1, and the Raiders are 6-7, and so is Miami. So you've got 13 teams that are within one game of a playoff spot, and in the NFC, it's not a whole lot clearer because you've got 11 teams that are 6-7 or better, and then you've got Carolina and Seattle that are both 5-8. But I mean, it's a cluster, and one game can slip away or change things up. Obviously, now it's going to be interesting. Now, New England has ruled out Damian Harris tomorrow, so I guess you're going to see a lot more of Ramondre Stevenson in the run game. Will the Colts be able to bottle that up and force Mac Jones to do something throwing the ball as opposed to just handing it off repeatedly? That's going to be a big key for Frank Reich's team.
Yeah, it'll be. I do believe that they're going to do. The Colts are going to do everything humanly possible to force Josh McDaniels to call pass plays for Mac Jones. I mean that is the game plan. Stevie Wonder knows that's the game plan. So we'll see. I mean, game plans are wonderful if you can make it work. If on the other hand you can't, then it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It goes back to the great Mike Tyson quote, which is everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face.
This is true.
Basically, that's the plan. The plan is stop the run, make Mac Jones beat you. That's been the plan against Baltimore: is stop Lamar Jackson from running, let him throw to beat you. But stopping them and making it work the way you want to is two totally different things. So we'll have a lot to talk about come Monday. We hope that you guys have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Plenty of football on. If you're looking for tomorrow's games, if you're looking and saying, wait, I can't seem to find them, they're on the NFL Network, unless you happen to be in the cities where they're being played, and then they'll probably be on a local channel in those cities. So the 4 teams that are playing tomorrow are going to be playing on the NFL Network. So there you go from that standpoint. You'll be able to watch them and follow them. We will be back on Monday to talk about those games, but also to lead you into what is commonly called now week 1, the full week 1 of bowl week. And of course, we're not going to forget the NHL, the NBA, or the college hardwood, because there'll even be more
tiddlywinks.
Or tiddly, whatever you can gamble on, we will talk about it. So we're here so that you don't have to look it up, and Chris is there, so he's the human calculator. He can make this stuff work for you. So thank you all for joining us today, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or Twitter. We have enjoyed being with you this week. We will be back on Monday, same time, same channel, which is the Whiners and Whiners Sports Network, Betting Network, Coming up at 3 o'clock, not that far from now, it's Scott and Scott, back to the window, and check in and see what they're up to. I'm sure they've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on for the weekend. So
I'm sure they'll talk about Chicago State IUPUI too.
Yeah, if you stick around and be sure to ask them. We want to know whether that was the Bet the Farm from yesterday or not. We'd like to know that. Well, look, folks, again, it's been a lot of fun. Be careful out there. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you come Monday.